When sci-fi becomes reality, remember the classic flying cars in Bruce Willis's Fifth Element? We might be seeing such scenes in, or I should say, above our streets very soon. China has set its sights on the low-altitude economy, which means economic activity surrounding both manned and unmanned aircraft, typically operating in airspace up to 1,000 meters above the ground. From air taxis to delivery services to search and rescue operations, low-altitude air mobility is increasingly becoming a part of our daily lives. In both last year's and this year's government work report, the Chinese government pledged to foster new growth in the sector and promote its safe and sound development. Now, this sector is expected to reach a market value of $210 billion by the end of this year and more than double that by 2035. From today on, actually, China's first ever International Advanced Air Mobility Expo is taking place in Shanghai, showcasing the latest advancements in the industry from home and abroad. Why is China placing such importance on this emerging sector? What changes will the low-altitude economy bring to our daily lives, and will this sector become the next battleground for major powers such as China and major economies such as China, the US, and European countries? Welcome to The Point with me, Liu Xin, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm pleased to be joined from New York by Anthony Chen, Global Chief Economist at Chen Economics and former Global Chief Economist at JPMorgan Chase. From Shenzhen, southern China's Guangdong province, by Liu Shaoshan, Director of Embodied AI at Shenzhen Institute of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for Society. And from Bangkok, Thailand, by Jeffrey Towson, Partner at TechMoat Consulting. Thank you and welcome, gentlemen, to our show. But first, let's go to Shanghai and go to our reporter, Bi Ran, who is on the ground at the 2025 International Advanced Air Mobility Expo. Bi Ran, so good to have you. Welcome to the show. I envy you, honestly. Tell us about the overall vibe at the event and how exhibitors and participants responding to this exciting new idea.
Sure, Liu Xin, nice meeting you. Here I'm at the first ever International Advanced Air Mobility Expo here in Shanghai. I can see the vibe here is very futuristic, innovative. And I've talked to the organizers. They said there are more than 300 exhibitors and visitors from around the world come here to showcase their latest innovation. And also, all these products, models, aircrafts will attract interest from over 500,000 visitors' interest. And now I'm sitting here in the aircraft. This is a very advanced one. It's made in France, and this is imported in China, and now it's being used mainly in the Yangtze River Delta area for the pilot training and some tourism projects. And in the future, the owner told me there will be more projects like this, and they will be collaborating with more international vendors and companies to push this industry. And also, I've seen a lot of visitors from Europe, America, Southeast Asia. They've talked to the vendors here, the local vendors, and I saw them left their contact info and maybe arrange some future real flight set tests and to talk about the future opportunities and the market potential. And also here, visitors can join the high-tech drone football competition, which is very fun. It's kind of futuristic fun. And also they can try the aircraft themselves and maybe get the first-hand futuristic experience.
Wow, it's amazing. It feels like we are on site. What are some of the latest what impressed you the most at the expo? Are there any particular cutting-edge technologies on display that caught your attention beside the model that you just showed us?
Yes, of course. I'd say what impressed me the most is all the global debuts here in Shanghai. And maybe we can browse all these aircrafts here. I say maybe we can see the first large payload eVTOL built for medical rescue and search and rescue missions, or the air traffic safety and security platform, and a large intelligent fixed-wing unmanned craft. And also, a lot of new technologies have impressed me a lot, like the hydrogen-powered drone, the ambitious aircraft, and the Qianming eVTOL simulator. And also, a lineup of Chinese low-altitude companies have exhibited their latest innovation. The eVTOLs, the drones, including the passenger drones and some hybrid aircraft car models. But I'd say the expo is not only about hardware. The expo will also feature over 30 high-level forums bringing a lot of topics like the tourism, integrating tech, and also capital, talent, education, and policies support for this industry, and to push forward the whole development of this industry both in China and globally.
Yeah. This looks so futuristic. What are people saying? What are the participants, analysts saying about how important the eVTOL, meaning electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, how will it impact our daily lives in the near future? Is it going to impact our lives significantly in the near future?
Yes, I've talked to some visitors and some exhibitors, and I think they believe this eVTOL, it will impact our daily life a lot. And of course, business, consumption, tourism, future transportation will all be impacted. For example, from my point of view, I think the transportation and tourism will be the two major points this eVTOL will affect us against the backdrop of US-led trade and tariff tensions. I think this year's expo has drawn greater global attention also to China's strong consumer market. And also here, I'm in the region of the Yangtze River Delta area, and with strong tourism resources and the rich cultural resources, the tourism industry will be used a lot of this high-tech innovation of drones and eVTOLs. And also for transportation, this stands for the future transportation. And China's low-altitude economy expands. Companies are introducing new area platforms beyond all these drones and the eVTOLs, and a lot of new kind of aircraft will also impact our life. So the 2025 government work report of China has also noted that China will foster these emerging industries related to low-altitude economy.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. We have to leave it there. It's wonderful and it's fascinating. Thank you so much for bringing us that wonderful report. Let's get back to our guests here in different parts of the world. Mr. Liu, you are an industry insider. Biran mentioned this word very often, eVTOL. Exactly how to pronounce it, I don't even. It's eVTOL. And there are other terms like advanced air mobility, low altitude economy. Even there are talks about vertiports in contrast to airports. Help us understand this school of concepts, what they're all about.
Well, we just opened up a third dimension for intercity or inner city transportation. The traditional transportation is on the road surface, whether it's train or cars. Now with eVTOL technology, we can fly from, say, one part of Shenzhen to the other part with no traffic. We can reach over there in, say, 10 minutes. But today, the reality is that traffic jams are a major problem in modern cities. So for example, in Shenzhen, if you get to one point to the other at traffic time, it would take more than 1 hour. So the eVTOL technology really opened up a new possibility for city transportation.
Anthony, help us understand your or the American research and analysis that are being done in this regard. How much importance, attention is given to low altitude economy or advanced air mobility in that part of the world? Are companies actively researching in this field as well, research and development?
Yes, Liu Xin, they are doing a lot of research because, as you probably know, on the logistics front, that last mile of delivering products to different places is always not only time consuming, but in some cases inefficient. And this will increase productivity. It will create new opportunities. You heard previously about the medical rescue and area. All those types of situations create opportunities for these eVTOLs. So I'm very excited to see all the research that's being done in China, in Asia, and also in the Americas and in Europe, because it really is going to create new opportunities to boost productivity and hence increase our well-being among our residents and just create increased efficiency. I think it's a win-win situation.
Jeffrey, let me ask you, in Thailand, a couple of months ago, actually, the YouTube sensation iShowSpeed experimented. He sat in a eVTOL, I have to get used to that term yet, a manned air taxi actually, and the video went viral and he was so excited. What explains this excitement and the fact that China seems to have been very bold in this in exploring this potential new dimension of economy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a cool factor to this. Like aerial robo taxis are cool. You know, for those of us that are older, came out of the Jetsons. We've been thinking about this forever. So, you know, when iShowSpeed showed up in China, which was really an interesting cultural phenomenon that he was such a big deal. You know, he took the air taxi ride by Yihang and got a lot of press, and it was, by every measure, it was really cool. I focus a lot more on commercial applications, things that I think will get adoption and maybe disrupt other areas. You know, the weakness of air mobility is you got to take off and land, and it takes a lot of energy. I mean, that's just gravity. There's no way around it. Now, when you get up to altitude, you can actually cruise horizontally pretty efficiently, but getting up and down is difficult. So, you know, you look for use cases that are going to make sense in that scenario. Are we going to see buses flying? No, too heavy. It takes too much energy. Could we have rapid delivery of medication to people's homes? Yeah, that works. The numbers work. Airport shuttles from downtown out to the airport. Looks like that, you know, it's not going to be the cheapest option, but it'll be fast and probably reasonably priced. So you can start to see the use cases start to pan out. I would argue the biggest opportunities are probably in agriculture, manufacturing, public safety, things like that, where you're not transporting huge weight, but you're doing a very effective function. Moving people and, you know, refrigerators gets harder. But yeah, China's, you know, they're the leader. I would argue they're the leader comfortably. There's other leaders, but they're definitely in, let's say, the top two.
Mr. Liu, how do you understand the Chinese vision into developing this sector? Many people talk about last year, the year 2024, as being ground zero for China's vision, for China's development in this sector. Actually, as I said, for 2 years in a row, this term is in the government work report. And I'm going to quote here, for instance, last year government work report said that we will foster new growth engines in fields such as biomanufacturing, commercial space flight, and the low altitude economy. This year's government work report also says we will promote safe and sound development of commercial space, the low altitude economy, deep sea science and technology, and other emerging industries. Despite the apparent limitations, at least for now, why does China place so much importance on this emerging sector?
Well, I think that's a very good question. Transportation is about 5 to 7% of GDP in developed countries, so as in China as well. Also, traffic jams generate a lot of emissions of CO2 gas. I think traffic jam generation is 1.6 gigatons of CO2 last year globally. eVTOL, it's a more efficient technology. And especially given the background that in the past few decades, China has been an industrialized country, but not innovation-driven yet. So at this stage, China is pushing itself into an innovation-driven country. So the areas you just listed, for example, this low-altitude economy is an innovation-driven economy. So China being the first one to do a deep exploration into this space would greatly benefit its economic development in the future decades. That's why I think the government is pushing it very hard, because on one side, it brings efficiency to the whole transportation system. On the other side, it's a new driver for economic growth.
There are 6 Chinese cities, Mr. Liu, let me stay with you. There are 6 Chinese cities which have been given the status of pilot cities to to open airspace below 600 meters, including Shenzhen, where you are, and then Chongqing in southwest China, Suzhou in eastern China, Hangzhou in eastern China as well, Hefei and Chengdu, various cities. What are the criteria for these cities? What are they tasked to do? What's the goal? What are they trying to experiment and find out about?
Right. I think I would take 2 examples. Chongqing, for example, is a mountainy city. There are a lot of mountains. That would impose a lot of technical challenge for eVTOL. So by using Chongqing as a pilot city, we can overcome a lot of technical challenges for this sector. And Shenzhen, on the opposite, it's a very busy, highly developed city. Shenzhen alone plans to build 700 takeoff points for these aircrafts. And then if you examine the supply chain, there are 2,000 companies within Shenzhen doing business in this new sector. So by doing a pilot in Shenzhen, they would help giving a lot of use cases for these supply chain companies that would help accelerate the growth of the sector.
What kind of mechanism is in place so that there's always a top-down approach? China sets a goal, and then what kind of policy initiative is going in to the ecosystem, for instance, so that there is more incentive, there's greater growth, greater investment? Can you help us understand that process, Mr. Liu, so that other countries are not coming out and say, look, it's again being unfair that China is subsidizing its domestic company, in boosting this sector? How does China's ecosystem work so that when it sets a goal to develop a certain sector, it then actually creates the momentum on the ground?
Oh, I think that's a very insightful question. Let's go back to history to examine the previous sector, the EV sector, electric vehicle. So back then, China has been subsidizing a lot into that sector, using the mechanism that if you sell one car, I will subsidize such amount of incentive to you. There have been a lot of criticism towards that mechanism because people try to make up their numbers to get more incentives. So now the mechanism is more focused on subsidizing the use cases. So the government would direct into a few use cases, for example, people mover transportation. For that, the government will put subsidies into those use cases. Then the whole supply chain would benefit because there's the OEM who builds the eVTOL, and there's the operator that operates the eVTOL. But behind them, there are a lot of component companies that will benefit as well. So I think the whole mechanism is shifting towards giving helicopter money to the whole supply chain towards subsidizing the use case so that the whole supply chain can benefit.
Anthony, let me come to you before I go back to Mr. Liu. How do you look at the kind of impetus that China is giving to its low altitude economy? Well, some people are going to say, look, China is again, playing it unfair, but this is a very, how should I say, sophisticated, it's not black and white. How do you look at it?
I actually look at it in a very constructive way because it is no different from what other countries do. When there is a young, emerging industry, you want to support it. You want to provide some subsidies, and once it takes off, then it's going to be on its own. I mean, all you have to do is look at the United States. What they're doing with the semiconductor chips, they are now subsidizing companies to build factories and build stuff at home. So there is no different from that, except that this is a very exciting area. And right now, yes, China is the global leader in Asia with these eVTOLs. And remember that China now has over 40,000 kilometer miles or or hours of experience with these aircraft just circling around, as opposed to in the United States, where it's still in the test stage. No real aircraft have been approved, unlike in China. So they do have the benefit of being the first mover and being out there in the innovative front. So I have no criticism. I just have great respect and great admiration for what China is doing in this sector.
The United States has actually been progressing as well in this sector. Our research found out, for instance, it is estimated that there are 14 U.S. states where 2 or more vertiports are planned to be built in the next a further 15 in the next 3 years, a further 15 states where AAM strategizing has begun. Jeffrey, where do you see that, if not the low altitude economy, but the drone sector being a new kind of area of competition, that the US will see it as a race again against China or Chinese companies?
Yeah, I mean, drones have been a pretty heated race for a while, and I think most people acknowledge China is far and away the leader, 70+%. I mean, you can get DJI drones everywhere in the world. So at least on the commercial side, that's been the case, the consumer side. Yeah, but I think what's interesting about this space is when you have a new technology, 50% of it you can never see coming. Some of it you can see, okay, robo-taxis, emergency deliveries, but there was a use case I read about recently in China where they took life preservers, the big orange rings you use when you fall off the boat or get in trouble at the beach, and they've turned them into drones. Mm-hmm. And so at the beach, instead of the lifeguard swimming out to help someone, the drones just take off and it drops right next to you, a life preserver. And they can do it with cameras. I mean, who saw that coming?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs. I think this is maybe the factor people aren't focusing. Yes, it's the tech, it's the manufacturing, it's the AI, but it's also about who has the most vibrant entrepreneurial economy right now. Because that's where all these crazy things are going to merge. That's probably, China and the US. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of surprises along the way.
Well, China and the US are not the only player. We understand, for instance, Japan also eyeing the sector, and for quite a long time, countries in Europe, they have also been experimenting. Unfortunately, the German eVTOL aircraft developer Volocopter actually applied for insolvency because of high operational cost and regulatory challenges. What can we learn from it? Jeffrey, let me stay again with you here. How can China strike a balance between innovating and the commercialization, and setting a boundary as we go forward of a regulatory framework?
Yeah, I mean, these are manufactured products, so we're probably not going to be hundreds of competitors. It's going to come down to a handful, just like EVs, cars, refrigerators, and so on. So you look for the countries that are very good at manufacturing. Well, that's China. And then AI, which is the other component of these, vehicles, which are going to be largely autonomous. Okay, that's the US and China, with Europe not really being much of a player in that these days. So I still kind of think, look, this is probably a US-China story, and I would give the edge to China because of the manufacturing ecosystem. But now the regulatory requirements could be the other unknown here, because you can't just fly drones through downtowns of cities, so whichever government sort of puts in place smart, supportive, yet safe regulations first, that could be a real edge. You could see a lot of countries and cities are just going to get a little too nervous about this and go very slow. The winners are probably going to move quick.
Yeah, let's hear again from Mr. Liu. Is the national regulator and the city leaders being bold here? Careful but bold.
Oh, I think they are very bold. They are not afraid to innovate. When we gauge the speed of innovation, when it's in technical terms or in regulation terms, China, I think, is winning. I have personally interacted with different level of officials. They listen to companies. They want their feedbacks. and see that would guide how they draft their legislation or regulation towards the industry. So it's a very mature feedback loop in China right now. So the companies would interact with the government very often to make sure that the government would adapt new regulations very quickly.
And also, when we talk about the imported French aircraft on display there at the expo in Shanghai, is China working with its international counterparts in developing the low altitude economy? Mr. Liu, how about international collaboration and trade, economic, exchanges?
Well, I think that's a very good point again, because China has a very mature supply chain, especially in manufacturing. China has also a AI supply chain to make the drones autonomous. But the use cases are international. So, for example, in France, there might be a case unique to the local market. So by working with OEMs abroad, China and the partners abroad can together grow a very big ecosystem for eVTOL.
Give us some concrete idea or concrete expectations, if you can, Mr. Liu, because this is so fascinating. I'm staying with you. In which year can I expect to take air taxis in Beijing?
I think just in a few years. In Shenzhen, right behind this building, I'm already seeing delivery drones to send my food to my table every day.
Really?
So it's developing very fast. Yeah, in previous year, we did not see that, but this year we see a large amount of drones delivering food for Meituan and for different companies already. So I think it's faster than you think.
Are we really going to see the Fifth Element scenarios where different, air taxis flowing in different directions on different levels and potentially bumping into each other?
Of course.
Yeah, we're going to see that. Anthony, to wrap up, what's your takeaway?
I'm excited. As we know, China has 70% of all the global patents in the eVTOL sector. So that not only is encouraging, but it tells me that China is very serious about this and will be a serious global competitor in this sector moving forward.
Jeffrey, what should we bear in mind, though? You have something rational to say, some words of wisdom?
I think I think the hard stop in maybe a lot of this is going to be the physics. This is sort of Elon Musk's standard statement. Like, you can innovate and make things cheaper, but physics is a hard limit. Ultimately, carrying things in the air requires a certain amount of energy. And that's going to probably be not something we can change, no matter how efficient the drones are. So a lot of these use cases are probably like, the numbers just don't work. But there's a lot of room for a lot of creativity and entrepreneurship in this space, especially when you're not carrying people or packages, but you're just doing things like camera work. When you're doing spraying, well, those are very light. So small light drones, I'd put my money on those happening very fast.
All right, let's see. Let's come back together on the discussion in 3 years' time, maybe, and see whether we're wrong or true. But it's a pleasure to have all of you to discuss this very exciting new topic for me. Thank you so much, Anthony Chen, Liu Shaoshan, and Jeffrey Towson. And as usual, thank you for having followed us on this edition of The Point. As usual, you can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing on behalf of the whole team. Thank you for watching. You've got The Point, and it's a serious topic. Thanks for watching.